Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to take a quick minute to talk to you guys about pool leaks. So, something you can do if you suspect you might have a pool leak, but you don't have the time to look for it, or you don't want to pay the money to have a leak detection company come out and spend $300-400, have them come find it. One thing you can do is actually just stop putting water in your pool. That might sound kind of crazy, but I've been letting this pool leak down for about a week now to see where it's going to actually stop at. So a lot of times if you have a leak in the skimmer, the water will leak down to the bottom of the skimmer and it'll actually stop right there, and that'll give you a good indication that your leak is probably somewhere in the skimmer. However, in this case, the leak has actually gone down to just above the light. So that tells me that we're going to find our leak in that light somewhere. So let's check it out. So as you can see, the water's gone down, gone down, gone down, but all of a sudden when it got to this point here, it just kind of stopped. So that tells me that there's probably a leak in this light somewhere. Now the ring does look kind of bad. It's got some rust on it. And this is an older pool, so I'm guessing somewhere inside the light niche, probably in the conduit, we're gonna have a leaky spot where the water is going out of there. So let's go ahead and pull the light out. Hey buddy, what's up, dude? Let's go ahead and pull the light out and look behind it and see what's going on back there. What's up, buddy? Do you want to go swimming? Sure is a big old air bubble just came out of here. It's kind of weird. Yeah, this ring is in pretty bad shape. It's probably due to a combination of the salt and the light is not bonded correctly anymore, which is causing some corrosion. There's definitely some corrosion going on. So we're gonna let the water just settle for a second, and then we're gonna put some dye in that hole and see what happens. All right, let's see if we can get some dye to suck in that hole. Let's pull this out of the way a little bit. I'm going to try to get as close back to the conduit as I can and shoot some dye, see if it sucks into where the cord goes into the wall. It does look to me like the dye is being sucked into the hole. So I think that's our leak right there. So even though the dye is not being sucked into the hole at a quick rate or anything, I still think that's where the leak is at. And it's just not sucking in that fast right now because the leak is already kind of down to its lowest point of where it's going to leak at. So the water's not really leaving the pool much anymore at this point. So we're going to go ahead and take some A and B epoxy. We're going to mix up a little bit and stick it in that hole into the conduit. And we're going to fill this pool back up and give it a test and see if that was actually the problem or not. So I guess we won't know for sure until we get some water back in the pool. But I'm like 95% sure that this is going to be the problem here. And also, lights are very notorious for leaking. Like 9 times out of 10, if you have a leak in your pool, it's coming from a few different places. If you have a liner, I would definitely check the liner for cuts and slits somewhere. However, the other 2 places are going to be the light and the skimmer. So once you can kind of rule those 2 out, it makes things a lot easier. You just make a wiener, and then you make a ball. And then you make a wiener, and then you make a ball. Now it's nice and mixed and goopy. Let's go ahead and plug that hole. You don't want to go too crazy plugging these holes with this, because someday this light's gonna have to come out of here for a new light, change the light out, and you don't want a huge glob of this stuff inside the conduit at that point. So pretty much just put enough on there to where you can seal the hole, but it can also be removed later if need be. So I'm not gonna jam it in there. I'm just kind of smoothing it over the top. Not only is the light cord coming out of this hole, but it feels like the bond wire is also in here. So that's going to create, you know, another obstacle to seal around. All right, I think we got this thing sealed up. It's going to take about 24 hours to dry. So in that time, we are not going to put the light back in the wall. We're going to leave it hanging here. We're also going to make sure the Polaris stays off. And pretty much we're going to let this thing sit for a day or two, and we're going to come back, put the light back in the wall after it's dried. So while we're waiting for that light to dry, or for the epoxy to dry, we're going to go ahead and fill the pool back up, and that way we'll know if it's still leaking or not. I really hate these small hoses for filling up a pool, because they just go like, look at this shit. These are not good for filling up your pool with. Alright, that's not going to work. We're going to have to put this on there. Let's break out our turtle friend. Let's hope this is going to work better here. Alright, so we are back. It's been a few days, and it seems like everything's holding up. Water level is up, so we're going to go ahead and put the light back in the wall. So before I put the light back in the wall, I want to tell you about a few things here. Number one is to check out the gasket on here. This one's in pretty bad shape. It's not leaking yet, but when they get old like this, they definitely start leaking, and that's when you start seeing water get inside of the bulb area here. This one's fine so far, but I just want to make you aware of something to look out for. See how it's kind of coming off on my fingers already? It's definitely in bad shape. Something else to look out for is the shape of the cord. This thing gets chewed up from the chlorine over time. It can get really warped looking and just kind of gross, disgusting, where it's like falling apart in your fingers. So keep an eye on that also. So when you're putting these lights back in the wall, you're pretty much going to be lining up this bottom tab right here. So this little piece right here is going to have to match up in a little notch at the bottom of this light ring right down there. So we're going to roll the cord up around the light, and we're going to make sure that that notch right there goes right into that little notch down there. Otherwise it won't sit in there correctly. Alright, so now we got the light back in the wall, but you know what, we're still going to keep an eye on it for a few days, because we want to make sure that it's not going to leak anymore. So we're going to go ahead and leave the skimmer turned off over here. We're going to leave that skimmer off for now, just in case if it leaks down. It's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But I'm like 99% sure that that was the problem. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.